Everything in the mainstream, all eyes on you. You gotta look a certain way. You gotta do a certain way. Your mainstream, yeah, bro. Like there's limitations to what you can and can't do.
Have you ever wondered why it is that despite being considered one of the best rappers amongst the recent generation, that Denzel Curry still goes without recognition? It begs a secondary question of whether it's a problem with him or a problem with the institutions of hip-hop itself. Due to the strict nature of the industry and its harsh expectations, I believe you'll never see Denzel lift a Grammy. Let me explain. It kind of seems like Denzel doesn't really have any major hitters that are co-signing his ability, and that's a major problem for industry execs. In any line of work that you do, being successful is never about the work itself. It's about the networking that you do. If people don't like you, they won't support you, and if your colleagues don't support you, it can be a major hindrance. To tell you a story, I once worked at a restaurant with a server named Bernice. Now, Bernice would practically be one of the most unhelpful people ever. She'd never do any side duties, would come in late, and be on her phone the entire time when a manager wasn't around. Yet she was a super lovely person to talk to, and nobody really focused on these things as much, and she never really got in trouble for them. She would still get all the best tables, won Employee of the Month awards, and honestly, looking back, I wish I would have been more pissed off with her sheerly out of jealousy. Denzel, unfortunately, is not a Bernice. He has repeatedly mentioned how major rappers don't mess with him. Now, how is it possible for YK Osiris to develop a relationship with Drake and prolong his already short career, and Denzel, who arguably has way more talent, cannot? It must be that Denzel is the one with the slight issue. I obviously understand not wanting to kiss ass to a bunch of random rappers and industry people, but at the same time, having a lone wolf mentality is only going to take you so far.
You doing all that, going to parties and meeting people and doing all this dick riding for what? Just so somebody could possibly hop on your song? Hell nah.
If you don't play by the rules, people don't like you, and if people don't like you, you don't get to play the game in the first place. Simple as that. Another big thing that Denzel kind of lacks, which these institutions love, is radio play. Now, a lot of these music institutions, like the Grammys, are made up of old, rich white people as major decision makers. They probably love to reminisce about quote-unquote real music and probably hate the fact that they have to discuss hip-hop at all. Therefore, if Denzel isn't on the radio or the Billboard charts, he's practically invisible to them. Radio play is single-handedly responsible for some of the biggest surprises in many people's careers. It's directly responsible for Macklemore somehow winning a Grammy over Kendrick Lamar, and is one of the reasons Jack Harlow was nominated over Denzel this past year. Now, Denzel has mentioned in the past that his most recent album, Melt My Eyes, See Your Future, was built more for a radio focus and mainstream audiences. So why isn't it getting played? Well, refer back to point one. Relationships with DJs, A&Rs, producers, etc. help your records get pushed. It's the thing that execs put into consideration between their 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. nap times.
Clear a path as I keep on walking, ain't no stopping in this.
Now, to represent my next point, I'm going to use Drake's response to the Pusha T beef. A wise man once said nothing at all. Now, you might think that's kind of a weak response in that scenario, but the message still kind of rings true. I understand that Denzel would feel frustrated at the fact that he got snubbed for a Grammy this past year, and the conversations around his underrated stature in hip-hop. As well, in my opinion, Melt My Eyes should have been nominated over some of the albums listed. But hopping on social media just isn't going to fix anything. If you're getting bullied in school and you're going to snitch to a teacher, in a lot of cases, it'll only make it worse for yourself. So Denzel blasting the Grammys will hurt his chances more. Well, what if he doesn't care about winning a Grammy now? I will get to that. Just give me a second. Let's switch gears to Drake again. In 2019, he dissed the entire Grammy organization. You know what happened at this year's awards ceremony? He won a Grammy. Why? Because over the past few years when he would lose or not be nominated at all, he put his time in, did the work, became the biggest artist on the planet, and then shit on their award at their awards ceremony after being nominated and winning it. He's so big they simply can't reject him anymore, even if he omits himself from contention. Every major artist has had issues with the Grammys, such as Drake, Kendrick, and even J. Cole. They kept a lot of their frustrations hidden and just put it into their music, and now all three of them have won at least one Grammy, and regardless are recognized as the heavy hitters in the music community. Now, in my opinion, someone like Jid is closer to winning a Grammy than Denzel. Jid also got snubbed at this year's Grammys, but I guarantee that as his brand and stock grows, so will his chances at winning. He's signed to Dreamville, so he has major connections with big artists. He did a feature on a song with Imagine Dragons, which not only got his name on Billboard charts, but also got him radio play from an outside audience. Lastly, although Jid and Denzel both got snubbed for Grammys, as I mentioned, I haven't heard a single complaint from Jid about it. So if Denzel wants to replicate somebody that he actually respects, it'd be Jid. Now, if you're a fan of Denzel, you might assume that I'm trying to say that Denzel needs to change himself and that it wouldn't be worth doing to try and fit in with the music industry. But that isn't what this video is about whatsoever. whatsoever. Denzel is plenty successful without any of the awards, and so he doesn't need to change anything. The thing is though, he clearly wants the recognition that the awards bring. Every rapper does. If he wants to win, he has to conform, unfortunately, and that's been the problem with the Grammys for the longest time. It kills all sense of authenticity in exchange for this recognition. The awards are supposed to be representative of the best of the best, not what's most popular. I'm glad to see though that instead of conforming, Denzel has been taking the stance and harnessing the mentality of fuck you, watch this. And that I respect more than anything. I hope his next project can bring him the peace and recognition that he deserves. But feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Should Denzel have been nominated for a Grammy in the first place? Is there a problem with the Grammys? Is Bernice still a shitty employee? Let me know.